Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next iteration of our Industry Insights and Adage Updates webinar. We are so glad that you're here. Today, we'll be recapping what we've been up to in the last 2 quarters as we took a break last quarter for TLCC. And we'll be talking about what we have coming up in the next few months. So speaking here, this is Sarah Bortson. I'm the Digital Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment here at Adage. And we'll also have 2 other presenters as well today.
I'm Matthew Agee. I'm our Chief Technology Officer.
And I'm Will Moran. I'm a lead user experience and interface designer.
So for those of you who have attended before, we'll be following basically the same format with some adjustments based on the feedback from our post-webinar surveys. So I'll kick it off with some recent launches that we'll take a look at. Then I'll hand it over to Matt and Will to cover technical and marketing trends. And then we'll wrap up with a look at our roadmap, including Matt talking through some technology upgrades, as well as I'll cover some updates to our products. So we've been quite busy the last 2 quarters, looking at Q2 and Q3. Starting off with, we've been doing a lot of upgrades from Tinu V6 to V7. So taking a look at just a couple of those, we have some examples here. So this is that new combined production page with the SYOS for NYU Skirball, as well as another example for the Guthrie Theater. We also have a couple of examples of carts here. So taking a look at Hubbard Street, and pretty straightforward, just single tickets in your cart, as well as then Oregon Symphony, where they're using pricing rules at the top and then have a subscription in their cart. And then finally, the Smith Center, we updated the styling of some customizations to the donation form that Tinu had created for their V6 that then transferred over to V7. And then finally, a pretty straightforward donation page with Arena Stage, where you can populate what level or what campaign you want to give a gift to, and then update the amount to something custom within that range, enter in any additional information, such as how you want to be recognized in the program, and then hit Donate Now to follow on into that cart path. So if you're an organization that is currently on V6 and we aren't yet in progress with you for V7, or you don't yet have a plan for that transition, definitely reach out. We are happy to talk through that, as well as then figure out if you have any additional customizations that are currently using the SOAP API that might need to transition over into the REST API. Up next, another major launch that we did was for one of our products. So Smartsheet is our SYOS or seat selector tool, and the most recent major release that we did for them focused on usability. So over the summer and early into last spring, we conducted usability testing with some of our community's actual clients. So working on doing that usability testing, as well as with a local team here to come up with what updates were recommended for the product. And if Smartsheet is not something that you're currently familiar with, definitely let me know. I'm happy to talk through the product in great detail at any point. So on the left-hand side here, we have our previous release, and this is the first page of Smartsheet, the filters page. And the right-hand side is the new release. And so we can see that pretty much everything follows the same layout, but the main changes that we made to this page were really in updating some of the font spacing and sizing to just make it a little bit more readable and cleaner. Moving into the next page, the actual seat map page, we made a number of different edits here. So we updated how that legend appears and how you can access that. We also updated the overlay bar so that you can kind of still see Smartsheet behind it over there on the right-hand side. And we pulled more of the filters from the previous page in. We also moved that view the level selection map into that same experience as well, to be clearer for people trying to navigate from level to level. We also cleaned up the header up at the top, and then the navigation down at the bottom with the mini cart. So that sticky navigation at the bottom used to take up more space, and the way that we've laid it out now, it's a little bit clearer, that view from seat image, that you can also still make full size. And then once you have selected an actual seat, you can see where that information is at the bottom, and then it goes into your mini cart, which is now kept over on that right-hand side overlay as well. So we're really excited about this newest release. If you are someone who's currently on Smartsheet, you'll be able to upgrade to this whenever you're ready. And of course, all of the updates that I just ran through on mobile there quickly are also then follow through onto the desktop view. So you can see sort of briefly some of those updates here, like the header being cleaned up and where the legend lives and things like that are all a little bit tighter now. Finally, from outside of the arts and cultural space, we have another client called Prospect Medical Holdings, and it's basically a group of hospitals. There are 11 of them total that are participating in this project with us, and five of them are done. And something that I think is really exciting about this project is that we were able to build one site out. So the core site that we started with was for Crozier Keystone, and we built out their site first, starting with the look and feel and what would best fit their needs, but keeping in mind the other hospitals that were to come. So we have different blocks and pieces of content here, a header, image, some clear navigation. And then we were able to take that same site template for the other hospitals and recreate it. And this was a really great way for us to be able to work with these nonprofit organizations to build one site for them that fit the majority of the needs for the different organizations, and then be able to recreate that site at a much lower cost than it would take for them to build all of the sites together. One of the features that we're really excited about with this project is their search feature. So previously, they used to have to keep all of the information that's now in the search for finding a doctor in printed books, and basically by the time these books were printed, they would already be out of date. And so if you're someone who's looking for a specific provider, like someone in cardiology, you can come in here and see different locations that offer that, as well as then specific providers, and get information about that provider. And this is actually something that now people at the hospitals use as well. So if you're a doctor that doesn't have a certain specialty that your patient needs, they actually come in here and they're able to look up really quickly and find different providers to help their patients much quicker and much more accurately than they could when it was previously all in that print edition. Finally, in looking at some of the releases that we've demoed in earlier webinars, some of them have gone on to win awards. So looking at the last 2 quarters, we won a couple of communicator awards. One was an award of excellence for Arena Stage, and the other was an award of distinction for the Norman Rockwell Museum's Curriculum Lab. This is a project that we built out that allows educators to go onto the Curriculum Lab site and find different lesson plans to teach their students about things that they need to be learning in school through the lens of the works of Norman Rockwell. It's a really interesting site. We also won a couple of Marcom awards, including a Platinum Award for the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and then a Gold Award for Crozier Keystone, which was one of those hospitals that we just took a look at. And you can always hop onto our site and see any of these awards, learn more about what they mean and why they were awarded anytime at adagetechnologies.com/awards. So up next, we're going to move into technical and marketing trends. I'm going to hand it off to Matt, who's going to talk about hosting in the cloud, as well as the California Consumer Privacy Act. And then Will is going to highlight some new design trends to watch for, as well as a tool for optimizing your site speed. So with that, we'll hand it to Matt.
Thanks, Sarah. So Adage has been doing cloud hosting for a number of years using Azure and AWS. We're finally able to the spot where we're going to retire our own hosting, which is in a South Loop facility in Chicago that we've maintained, and moving everything to the cloud. So with that, we're also able to help put together different plans of what we were able to provide for cloud hosting for you. That helps to do backups and restores and DevOps and all the extra pieces that goes with maintaining what you have in the cloud, making sure you have that always available to you. So if you're not currently in the cloud, you also might be interested in the fact that there is an Azure nonprofit credit that can help offset some of your cloud costs that Microsoft does offer for all nonprofits. So any nonprofit should be able to apply for that and get a discount. It probably won't cover your full cloud hosting bill, depending upon the amount of traffic, but it certainly is a help when considering moving to Azure. One of the big changes coming in 2020 as far as technology legal standpoints go is the California Consumer Privacy Act. This goes into effect in January 2020. It was originally set up in, I think it was 2018 was when it was originally passed. It is different from the GDPR, so if you're familiar with GDPR and its requirements, its differences really rely on the fact that it's about personal data. So if you are collecting personal data, you have to disclose that, and how you're using that data needs to be clear, as well as people have the ability to say they have the right to be forgotten and the right to not keep their data past a certain standpoint. So those are the major highlights for this. As always, we are technologists, not lawyers. So if you do have a legal team, please contact those about how that might impact your business practices. One highlight would be that the GDPR also covers data scenarios, including data breach and the amount of time you have to release information about a possible data breach, and fines and penalties associated with data breaches. And that is not covered by this act. So this act is solely about privacy, disclosing how you're using personal data, when you're using it, and where you're using it, and the ability to say, I would not like to be tracked. So those are some of the highlights. We also included a Wikipedia article, clearly not legal advice as well. So just something to keep in mind as you're looking at what you might be planning in 2020.
Great, thanks, Matt.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what to look for in 2020 in terms of design trends. And these are some trends that the design team has been seeing and actually working on with a couple of our clients. The biggest one that we've been delving deeper into with content strategy is structured data. So if any of you are familiar with schema.org, it's making sure that the content on your site is structured in a way that it's easily searchable by a search engine and can render in a really nice way if someone Googles something on your site. What we've been seeing is we're building a lot more of these properties from schema.org into page templates and into other blocks, just to make sure that if someone's looking for an event or a specific type of information on your site, it's bubbling up a little bit higher on a search engine results page, and it's also rendered really nicely. This can also really help your internal site search as well. The second thing, which I think I had mentioned last time, and this also relies pretty heavily on structured data, is voice-assisted search, navigation. So focusing on that structured data and content is going to be a huge help. We know that in the future, more users are going to be reliant on voice search, so it's really important to kind of think about that moving forward with some of your content. Another trend, maybe not a trend, but something hopefully we're going to see a lot more of, is variable typography. And what that means is that variable fonts would allow designers to derive an unlimited number of font variants from the same font file. So if you have, on your current site, you might have 6 different fonts being loaded. Having one font file that can do all of that work is going to be really helpful, saving some time and space. So this way, a designer has control over, how the font renders in different devices, viewports, orientations from that one file. And then the last piece that we expect to see a little bit more of, not new, but dark UI modes. iOS 13 allows users to now change their preference to a dark mode. We kind of expect that to filter in a little bit more into web and native applications as well. So we might be seeing a little bit more of that in the future. And then in terms of ongoing optimization, there's a tool that's been around called Lighthouse, and we highly recommend that if you have the time or someone on your team has the time to run this on a couple of pages for your site. A lot of sites that we see suffer from improper image compression, and it really slows your sites down, especially on mobile. So it leads to slow page load times. Users bounce if they can't get to that information quickly. So you might be losing some potential revenue there. So on the right, I have a quick screen cap of a test I ran on a site, and the top 3 things are really, or the top 2 things I should say, are really based on image compression. So if you do want to take a look at Lighthouse, it's built into the developer tools in Chrome. You can also get a plugin for it as well. And I would say try using it on some of your media-rich pages and see how you can reduce some of those image and video sizes. And a way you can do that is really using a compression tool like Tiny PNG. You can even make up your own compression algorithm in Photoshop if you want. But some of the next-gen image formats that Google recommends in order to keep these image sizes smaller are things like JPEG 2000, JPEG XR, and then WebP. But if you don't have someone that can do that, I would just recommend using some image compression tools that are available online for free.
Right, great, thanks, Will. So coming up next, we're going to talk through the Adage Roadmap. Matt's going to kick it off with discussing the major technology upgrade that we're still focusing on here at Adage, and then I'll walk us through the updates to our products.
Not a new topic, but one that's come up several times is the Tessitura REST conversion. So at this point, Tessitura is still looking at dropping full support for SOAP. So with version 16, once you install it, SOAP will no longer function. At this point, they have also recommended that there will be certain parts of the application that are being rewritten in a way that even the existing SOAP API wouldn't be transferable. So it'll be completely unsupported and would require significant rework, which is why they're not attempting to carry it forward past version 15. Some of the side effects we've seen of the REST conversions we've done so far, and I think we mentioned this at the last session, was that even a minor upgrade to Tessitura 15.10 to 15.13 does require changes to the website. This is more frequent. The changes are more frequent than they were with SOAP. So the REST services is what Tessitura itself is built on. So with every even minor release, there are changes, and those changes have to be affected into the website code itself. So we do have an interface layer that we've built to help mitigate some of those issues, but it does mean as we see a new minor point release version, if you're installing the latest hotfix, we may need a little bit more time to prepare our interface layer for that and then be able to get that rolled into your current website. So there are just different considerations once you do move to REST. So we are taking that as best we can to make sure that we have cross-team communication here at Adage around the changes that might be needed from a minor point release of the REST services. We have started to do some load testing against the REST services successfully as well, so we do find that they're just as performant when used the right way as the SOAP services were, which is something that we've been working towards to evaluate the efficiency of the REST services. If you do have questions, please ask your project team. If you haven't considered scheduling your REST upgrade in the next 6 months, know that Tessitura currently is slating for version 16 to come out in the second half of 2020. So they haven't defined if that's Q3 or Q4. Originally, they did mention it was meant to be July, but so far that doesn't seem to be where the angle is. So as we get information, we'll be sure to pass that along, or you can ask Tessitura if they have a more updated timeline for their release schedule.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. So taking a look at the two main content management systems that we work with here at Adage, Episerver and Umbraco. Since the last time we spoke, there hasn't been a whole lot of updates here. So Umbraco, their newest version, 8.2, has now been fully released for new projects. When the last time we spoke, they had just recently rolled out 8, and they are still currently working on that upgrade path from 7 to 8. Also taking a look at Episerver, version 11 is still the most recent release, and they held their annual conference, Ascend, last week in Orlando. And as we get additional information from them about upcoming timelines and new features, we will continue to share that as well. Finally, taking a look at updates from the ACE platform and Smartsheet. So for those of you not familiar with the ACE platform, it is our e-commerce solution that is basically a code base that's designed to be fully customized and configured to fit the unique needs of your organization's e-commerce requirements. What we've been working on for the past year or so with the ACE platform is to move it from being sort of an all-in-one e-commerce solution to being more component-based. So if you are someone who uses Tinu or has a different solution, but you need custom subscriptions different from what Tinu offers, or unique requirements for your gift certificates, things like that. We're able to use these modules or components from the ACE platform to then work with Tinu. Smartsheet, we already took a look at the usability testing release, and the next thing that we have coming up is our community release. So this is something that starting last year, we do annually, where throughout the year people are able to submit different enhancements that they would like to see to Smartsheet, and then we make them all available for our members of the Smartsheet community to vote on, and the most voted on features will get added to our next major release. New this year, we'll be including a public JIRA board that we'll then use moving forward so that members of the community can have more transparency into what we're doing when and what is upcoming and what's slated for new releases as they come out. Finally, today, the last thing we wanted to touch on are the upcoming events that we have. So looking at the rest of this year here, next week, we have a group of people heading to Experience. This is a tech show that's largely for associations, but also nonprofits and schools in Orlando. And then we'll be at the Tessitura Europe Conference, November 18th and 19th. So again, if you want to keep up to date with what events we'll be attending, we also keep webinars like this one and other webinars that we've done in the past, other events, up to date on our website at adagetechnologies.com. So thank you all again so much for coming. We're so excited to have you here. We always love sharing what we have been up to and the direction that things are going. We want to make sure that we're keeping your sites up to date, keeping you in the loop on what we're seeing as upcoming technology trends and information. So hopefully this webinar was a helpful check-in on those items, and we will be looking forward to any feedback that anyone has on the survey that we'll be sending out after this, so that we can continue to iterate and make sure that what we're providing in these quarterly webinars is the most use to you. So thank you all again so much, and we hope you have a great week. Take care.
Right.